Hello, my name is Mark Coonrad, and I'm the unit historian for the 3rd Battalion, 12th Infantry Regiment. The 3rd of the 12th Infantry was a light infantry battalion that served in the 4th Infantry Division in Vietnam between the years of 1966 and 1970. Today, I'd like to talk about the daily summary of activities for the battalion on January 14th of 1969. First, a little backstory on the 3rd of the 12th. The battalion shipped out from Fort Lewis, Washington to Vietnam in September of 1966 and spent from September 66 to April of 67 located in the Phu Yen province, operating out of Tuy Hoa. In April of 67, the battalion was shipped out to the Central Highlands and spent from April to November of 67 in Pleiku province. In November of 67, the battalion was sent north to Kontum, where it was engaged in the Battle of Dak To and stayed up in Kontum province throughout the rest of 67 and most of 68. In late 1968, the battalion was brought back to Pleiku province, and that's where we find them on January 14th. This map just gives you a layout of the area that we're going to be talking about. The battalion's operating in this ridge complex. There's two mountain ridges that run north to south at the southern side of the Mangyang Pass, which is a pretty famous pass that runs between these two large mountain areas in between the cities of An Khe and Pleiku. The name of the map sheet that we're working with today is Chu Rpan. That's Churpan. And this valley in between these two ridges actually had the name VC Valley. Now there were other valleys in Pleiku province that were also called VC Valley, but this one was definitely one of the major ones with that nickname. So on January 14th, the battalion is operating on the southern half of the left or western mountain ridge line here. So I'll go ahead and move on to our next slide, and we'll just be this military grid map, but blown up, and we'll start to see where all the elements of the battalion are. So as you can see, this is VC Valley in the middle here, and this is the western mountain ridge line. So we're at the southern end, and you can see kind of the western slope of that eastern ridge line. So the battalion is actually had constructed a fire support base in the southwestern corner of this map. There was no name mentioned for this fire base. I've looked quite a bit, but I have not been able to find it. And I think that the battalion set this fire base up on about January 10th. So they really hadn't been operating out of this fire base for very long. On the 14th, the battalion headquarters element, HHC, and Charlie Company, the Recon Platoon, the Mortar Platoon, and Bravo Battery 6 of the 2-9 Field Artillery, which was the direct support field artillery battery, are positioned at this fire base, and all the other elements are out in the field. And so I've listed all the elements that were out in the field on the morning of the 14th. We'll start with Alpha Company. Alpha Company was up here on a hilltop called Hill 1188. That's named for its height in meters. They'd actually combat assaulted to this hilltop the day before, and they had sent out some patrols. Looks like they had 3rd Platoon had a small patrol out to the northwest, and 2nd Platoon had at some point moved south and set up shop. I don't know if they moved out first thing in the morning or they had been there the night before, but the first entry in the log shows them at this grid coordinate, and with a small sub-element out in front. Bravo Company is the southernmost element located down here. Charlie Company, like I said, is actually headquartered here at the firebase, providing firebase security, but one element, their 1st platoon, had moved out and had been east of the firebase. Delta Company is in the southern reaches of the ridge complex, and they had 2 elements that had spent the night out. As far as I could tell, that's SRP 44, that's Short Range Patrol 44, and Short Range Patrol 42. The other element that was out was the Apache teams. Apache teams were the Battalion Reconnaissance Platoon, and there were 4 teams, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I don't know where 1 and 4 were at this point, but 2 and 3 show up at this location. So just a note about these SRPs. There was a naming convention for the battalion, and the way they did it is all of the elements started with 8. So that was just the battalion, the first digit for that was for the battalion. And then if you were a 1 element, you were Alpha Company. If you were a 2 element, you were Bravo, 3 was Charlie, and 4 was Delta. So 4-4 most likely stood for an element from the 4th platoon of Delta Company and an element from the 2nd platoon of Delta Company. Now, there's no way to be 100% sure, but that seems likely. The battalion at this point was commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Richard Xavier Larkin, who was a 1952 graduate of West Point. He would actually continue on in his Army career and retire as a Major General. The battalion logs that I'm going to be looking at today and that I've taken all the grids from this report from, the logs were actually written by a Major David E. Fried, and he also is a West Point grad, 1959. He's the S3 Battalion Operations Officer, so it was his responsibility to track the operational movements of the units in the field. Company commanders that we have, Alpha Company is commanded by Captain Donald Androsky. Bravo Company is commanded by Captain Barden Blizzard. Charlie Company is commanded by Captain True, and I don't have his first name, and actually I believe he had just been promoted from first lieutenant to captain just a few days before. And Delta Company is commanded by Captain Foss. All right, the first thing that happens, like it does every morning in Vietnam, is radio checks basically occur every hour on the hour, and there's the situation negative for all elements up until about 0724, and then they do an equipment check and another radio check, gets loud and clear, and that is the first element we have moving is that Charlie Company's 1st platoon starts to move from their night defensive position back towards the fire support base. You can see them down here, and another point to consider is that I've created colors for each of these units. Alpha Company will always be red, Bravo Company will always be white, Charlie Company will always be blue, Delta Company will always be green, and the Apache Recon teams will always be gold. And the battalion headquarters or fire support base units will always be in this black circle. Bravo Company had some SRPs out overnight, and it notes in the log that they have fallen back to the company position, and they are prepping. The Bravo Company is getting ready for a combat assault of their own today. Alpha Company at 0810 has an interesting conversation noted in the log. It says that Alpha Company, this would be the company commander, Donald Androsky, he reports that his mission would be limited this morning until they get a resupply and a definite location on Bravo Company and all of their elements. I think Alpha Company's waiting because they know that Bravo Company is going to be combat assaulted north of them, but they're not sure where, so they're kind of waiting to figure out what to do. Also, they need resupply, probably need water. They're up on a ridge, very high kind of hill, mountaintop here, probably no access to water, so they're needing some resupply before they move out for the day. They do say that they're going to move out and check out a terrain feature to their south, and I believe that the terrain feature in question is this next hilltop south, which was Hill 1233. Delta Company SRP 44 starts to make their way back to the company perimeter, and Charlie Company 1st Platoon makes their way all the way back to the fire support base. At 1000 hours, they finish up their patrol. Delta Company's other short range patrol 4-2 makes their way back to the company perimeter. It's actually interesting in the log. There's a major mistake with the grid coordinate that was recorded for this element. In the grid that's recorded puts them about 4 map sheets to the east, and so I know that's not right. So I had to do a little bit of deduction, and I'm moderately certain that this is about where they were the night before. So the battalion commander at about 1000 hours is en route to a base camp, and it doesn't say which base camp, so that it could be Pleiku, most likely Pleiku, for a commander's meeting. And then a command and control helicopter checks in and actually picks up the battalion operations officer, Major Fried, and to perform a visual reconnaissance of the mission area for the day. And before that, it actually flies to Bravo Company's location and picks up Captain Blizzard. Those two are probably going to fly up here and check out this area here, this hilltop, which is the landing zone that they're considering for the combat assault today. One of my most favorite entries that I see in the log, and you don't see them very often, is a weather report. And so at 11:10, a weather report is noted. It says that clouds are at 10,000 feet, winds out of the south and to the east, 18 knots, a high of 84 degrees, and no rain in the outlook. So Alpha Company, 2nd Platoon starts to move, and they're actually moving further south, which is towards that terrain feature that was noted earlier in the log. And then their 3rd Platoon, Patrol Number 1, starts to move back to the company perimeter. And then actually that 2nd Platoon element doubles back. They must have checked out that terrain feature. Nothing there, nothing of interest. And so they've actually double backed and headed back to the Alpha Company perimeter. Delta Company's SRP-44, which had just closed the company perimeter, actually heads out again on another SRP, but I don't know which direction specifically. Just says that they're headed out. There's a lot of notes in the logs at this point talking about this planned combat assault up here to this landing zone. They pick out a pickup zone and a time where Bravo Company is going to get picked up, and that's their grid that they're currently located at. They pick out an estimated landing zone time and this grid. They estimate that the landing will occur at 13:47 hours. Cider 13 checks in, and Cider elements are forward air controllers, usually Air Force small aircraft that are specialized in spotting targets for heavier air assets. So the Bravo Company, no, I'm sorry, not quite there yet. I did notice that Apache units 2 and 3, so Apache teams 2 and 3, actually were picked up, and it just is a real quick note. It just says that they are picked up and moved south to A Battery, 1st to the 92nd Arty Firebase, and it gives a grid which is actually far to the south, and they had some type of a SPAR report, and they needed a recon element to go check them out. So those two teams are pulled out of the AO and sent south. And Bravo Company is now commencing with their combat assault. They're picked up by helicopters. I don't know what unit picked them up, but they are. And I don't know, maybe they went on the east side, maybe they went on the west side, maybe they went straight over the ridge line. I really don't know. But what's interesting is there's a note in the log at 1353. It says the flight lead says that the first few birds or helicopters went into the wrong LZ. Now, I don't know where they went. I don't know how far off they were, but it just says they went in the wrong one. But then at 1447, it notes that the landing is complete. In this correct grid, which is the one I have marked here, which is 108423. So this is BR 108423. Each one of these squares is a square kilometer. So 100, 10 sections of 100 meters and 10 sections of 100 meters. And so 10, this is the 10 grid line. 8 puts you about here. 423 puts you about here. This is 2 because this line's just a little bit darker. It's kind of hard to see in this map, but this is the 40, this is the 41, this is the 42. So 108, 423, thereabouts puts you. 1455, Major Fried returns to the CP. Must have been done with the combat assault. He probably was along for the combat assault, just in the command and control helicopter. So then the flight lead checks in and actually says that they're going to head back to Blackhawk, which is a fairly large fire support base landing zone just north of this ridge on the main highway that runs east to west from Anke to Pleiku. So they got to go up there to refuel. Then they're going to come back and they're going to pick up mortars from the mortar platoon at the fire base and actually bring them to Alpha Company and Bravo Company up on those two hilltops. So that's what they check in at 1515, and they say they're going to go do that. Then Lieutenant Larkin comes back to the CP, and by 1600, those mortar units are on their way to those two hilltops, to Alpha and Bravo companies. And 1637, the mortars have been delivered to Bravo Company. And then an interesting note in the log is at 1707, there's a message from Brigade. The 4th Division Provisional Battalion will be working in the AO from basically the next day, 15th of January to the 18th, and they are going to start working at this grid coordinate 040, which would be here, and 440, which would be here. So this looks like a little town called Pleiku, maybe Pleiku, and it gives a route that they're going to work. And basically, they're going to work to the west, and then they're actually going to swing back. And then when they come back into the picture, they will be down here at the 300 grid line. So I don't know much about the 4th Infantry's Provisional Battalion, but usually a Provisional Battalion is not like a line battalion like the 3rd or the 12th, but it's one that's made up of support troops or individuals from other units, or maybe transient personnel, people that don't have a specific unit and they just needed another maneuver battalion. So they kind of cobble it together a little bit and put it out in the field. The next thing in the log is the status of each of the units, and I love when they put these in there because it gives you an idea of how many men are in each of these elements. So HHC, which we have down here, consists of 34 enlisted men and 6 officers. Company A up here is actually pretty heavy strength at this point, 132 enlisted men and 6 officers. Company B, which just finished their combat assault, is at 115 enlisted men and 4 officers. Charlie Company, which is down here doing firebase security, is at 109 enlisted men and 5 officers. And then Delta Company is at 104 enlisted and 3 officers. Recon, which is, I think, split between here and somewhere else, has 30 enlisted and 1 officer, and the mortars are sitting at 45 enlisted and 1 officer. So it looks like the plan is to actually turn one of these hilltops into a fire support base, because at 1830 a message is in the log. It says a message from Major Fried to Company A is be prepared to accept the CP, or the command post, that'd be the headquarters element, and Bravo 629. In 2 days, a quartering party will be there tomorrow. So they are prepping this hilltop to become a fire support base. And there's a little bit of a plan summary for Delta Company. They basically are given the order that tomorrow, the January 15th, they're going to patrol all the way east to this Dak Payo River, which is, cuts right through the middle of VC Valley, and they're going to do some patrolling there. And then it says they're going to take up a night location back at the fire base. So I'm not sure if that happens or not, but that is the plan summary. It also gives a little bit of coordination, because it says Delta Company 3rd of the 8th is operating in this ridge line, and they may see them just as like a heads up. The Delta 3rd of the 8th is going to be over here. And then the log gives the night locations. And so it doesn't say when they got there or how they got there. It just gives me some night locations. And so here we have Alpha Company's 2nd Platoon, which had already been on the move, so they must have came back to the company perimeter and then moved out to a new night location. And the 4th Platoon of Alpha Company, They could have been there all day. I really don't know, but I do know that at night on the 14th, the evening of the 14th, they are sitting out here. And then SRPs 11 and 12 are kind of very close together off this peak right here. Bravo Company sends out two SRPs or ambush patrols. Actually, I'm sorry, they only send out one. They send the first platoon goes out down to this ridgeline, but Bravo Company itself actually moves up to this hilltop and sets up their night defensive position there. Charlie Company sends out 4 SRPs, and I think it's kind of neat because you can see, obviously, they want 1 in each cardinal direction, just as like an early warning in case the MVA or the VC try to launch an attack on the fire support base. And Delta Company's SRP-44, which started outside the wire that morning, goes back into the perimeter, must, maybe switch out guys. Maybe it's a completely different set of people, but they move out to here. And actually there is a note about SRP-44, and there were supposed to be 2 Delta Company SRPs, 4-3 and 4-4, but 4-3, which was supposed to be located a little bit further south, had radio issues, couldn't communicate, and so they moved back to SRP-44, and they're going to co-locate for the night. And, oh yeah, okay, here we go. Apaches 4 and 1, I forgot we had this in the log. They are noted that those 2 Apache teams are located here. So likely the entire reconnaissance platoon was out doing a full platoon-sized patrol, which didn't happen very often. And then they've split into 2 pieces. 2 and 3 are going to go south and help out that other artillery unit. 4 and 1 going to stick together up here and then patrol some more tomorrow. So the other interesting piece of in the log is that at 20:30 hours, Delta Company right here requests a dust off for a individual in the company with blood poisoning. It does not say anything else. It doesn't say how, when, where, did the dust off. Oh, actually, it does say at 21:45 the dust off is complete. So that sick man who had blood poisoning was evacuated out of the field that night. That's it for January 14th of 1969. As always, these are recorded in honor of the hundreds of men that proudly served in the 3rd Battalion, 12th Infantry in Vietnam from 1966 to 1970. Steadfast and loyal, that's the 4th Infantry Division motto. Braves always first, that is the 3rd of the 12th motto. And these are what the logs look like where I'm pulling this information from. The information used to generate this report was primarily pulled from the 3rd of the 12th Infantry S3 Operations Daily Journals, and I retrieved those from the National Archives in College Park, Maryland in 2021. Thank you.